Welcome, everybody, to the Pride Perspectives radio show. We're so glad you can join us today. My name is Rob Darrow. My pronouns are he, him, and his. Our Pride Perspectives radio show is here on K-Squid every other Sunday from 5 to 6. You can find all our recordings and updates on the Santa Cruz Pride website, santacruzpride.org. And I'm here with my co-host, Cece. Cece, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks, Rob. I'm glad to be here. Welcome, everybody, and I'm glad everyone's listening to our show. My name is Cece Pinero, and my pronouns are she, her, and our show is guided by the following beliefs. We believe that Santa Cruz County is thriving, partly because of the contributions of LGBTQ plus people, and LGBTQ plus people in Santa Cruz County are thriving because of the broader Santa Cruz County. We believe in the words of Jewish poet Emma Lazarus, that none of us are free until all of us are free.
On this show, you will hear us refer to queer history and LGBTQ plus history. For us, these terms are interchangeable and refer to people who identify as lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, anywhere on the gender identity spectrum, and who they are attracted to. All are welcome to be part of this radio show. It's now February, and our show that we're focused on today is, where is the title? We're going to talk about the Elevate Inclusivity conference coming up. And we've got two special guests we'll introduce you to in just a few minutes. I was starting to say that it's February and it's also African American History Month. I do appreciate how these national themes have developed over the years so that we can take time to appreciate the various immigrant and cultural groups that have helped build our country and our community. So Cece, on our last show, we had Bryce and Kevin and Rachel talking about coming out. Any thoughts on that?
Well, you know what I like the best, which we really need in today's world, is Bryce and their dad, Kevin, were agreeing to disagree. They had different takes on what Mission Hill Middle School was and perspectives, and they were both able to. That's what I took away from it, because I thought they handled that really well, and it's just so great to have, just agree to disagree on some stuff, especially with your, high school kid and a dad. I mean, that's fabulous. So that was my big, that's what I like the best and I'm just a big fan. I'm a big fan of local schools. I always say that. And, I went to Mission Hill when it was a junior high. So I like that their discourse and their agree and disagree, and I can see both sides of that coin. And that's always a plus, because I can't see the other side of some of these coins we're looking at these days. So that was a real pleasure for me. And, like Rob said, that our tonight's show is focusing on the inclusivity in businesses across Santa Cruz County, and in particular about the second Elevate Inclusivity event, taking place Thursday, February 26th at Hotel Paradox from 9 a.m. to 12 noon, co-sponsored by the Diversity Center, Santa Cruz Pride, and LGBT eLearning. And, for those of you that aren't in the studio with us right now, I put my fingers up in a peace sign to mark 2, and I said the second one. But, on the radio, you're not going to see me going second. So anyway, Rob, what about you? What did you think about our last show?
Yeah, I was thinking how I really agree with what you said there. It was fun to be able to have a young person and their parent who they've come out to, and what that's like. And parents should just love their kids and know that all kids have different ideas and thoughts about who they are, and hopefully are just accepting to them. So it was certainly a wonderful model of how it should be. And then, Rachel brought in these other aspects of having a child now who came out twice, right? First as gay and then as transgender, and how they dealt with all of that in a very loving manner in their family. And it's fun to look at her child in particular, Reyes, who is now just about graduating from the University of Oregon, right? So it's so heartwarming to see students from Santa Cruz County who are part of our LGBTQ plus community, who we've seen at Queer Youth Leadership Awards and different places, to then go on and thrive and do wonderful things with their lives. I mean, that's all we want for all kids. And that's hopefully how all parents look at their children as well.
Well, unless you wanted to pop in and say something, I was going to say it's interesting to note that California has the largest LGBTQ plus population of people, according to the Department of Justice, the State of Pride report, 2025 report, and it's 2.8 million, or 9.5% of California's population identify as part of the LGBTQ plus community. And that's based on the California Healthy Kids Survey. And we know that 9% of students here in our area in grades 8 and 11 in Santa Cruz County identify as part of the LGBTQ plus culture. So these statistics are good reasons why businesses should be inclusive.
So, Cece, I'm curious, when you ran for school board, you were the first out person running for school board. Did you have an idea of what percentage of people in Santa Cruz County at that point that you thought were LGBTQ plus, or
I don't think we knew that. Yeah. I don't think I didn't know any of those statistics. I mean, I think I just always sort of subscribed to the national average. It said 1 in 10, or maybe that's California. 1 in 10 people were LGBTQ, and I was the first one to run as an out lesbian, then get elected and serve.
Right.
And and then now it's and that was a long time. So that was 2000, 2001. Right. So that's 26 years ago now. So.
Yeah, I do a lot of work with schools, so it's fascinating to look at the data that validates that. And as I talk to teachers from time to time, I point out that means that 3 out of 30 students are LGBTQ or somewhere on the spectrum, so it's important to know that. And so when we think about that across Santa Cruz County, we think, we have a pretty large population of people here. I know different lesbian people I've interacted with. Well, and Cece, I think you've said this to me, that in the early history, Santa Cruz County was thought of as the lesbian capital of the world, right? Did you hear that?
Yes. Yeah. Well, I mean, I heard that. And I think our guests here in the studio are nodding their head. Yes, they've heard that too. And I was raising my hand. Yes. When Rob said lesbian people, I go, that'd be me.
Anyway, that's a long way around to say that there is a wonderful population, wonderful LGBTQ plus culture across Santa Cruz County. And in addition to the schools and all the different aspects of our culture throughout the county, we're going to focus tonight a little bit on our business culture. And our guests tonight are both involved with Santa Cruz County, and we're happy that they're joining us tonight. You'll get to hear first from Sharon Papo, who is the CEO of LGBTQ eLearning and former executive director of the Diversity Center, and then Kristen Brown, who is the executive director of the Santa Cruz Area Chamber of Commerce and former mayor of Capitola. We'll talk with Sharon first. So welcome, Sharon. So great to have you here. Can you start by introducing yourself and how you ended up in Santa Cruz?
Sure. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you. I'm Sharon Papo, she, her pronouns. And I came to Santa Cruz to go to UC Santa Cruz. And one of the reasons I did that was because I had a sense that I wanted to figure out who I was, and I wanted a supportive community to do that. And UC Santa Cruz was a great place.
Did you know that about UCSC before you came here back then?
Yes.
Yeah, that it was a very accepting and welcoming place.
Yeah, I looked at a lot of colleges, and I decided to come here. Yeah, for a reason.
Or the lesbian Mecca, even though there are those that are the lugs, which you've heard of the lugs, and luckily Sharon wasn't one of them, but the lugs are lesbian until graduation.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So we have.
Look at all I'm learning tonight about UCSC. So Sharon, where did you come from to come to Santa Cruz? Where did you grow up, and what was it like growing up in your family?
Well, I was born in Oakland, but mostly since kindergarten, I grew up in Cupertino and really watched it transform from apple orchards to Apple computer. And so it was a really interesting time to be there. And I think I thought it was pretty boring, but now I can look back and really see all that I witnessed being there at that time.
We like inviting our queer friends to talk a little bit about their coming out stories because that's a common bond that we all have. When did that happen for you, and how was that for your family?
Well, I came out right when I got to UC Santa Cruz, when I had felt like I had the space to be who I was, and I said, yeah, that feels right. And so when I came out to my family, I think they were uncomfortable. I think they thought it was a phase, but they didn't reject me, but they certainly weren't. It took them a while to be fully welcoming and accepting, of which they absolutely did in time. But I had different hurdles. One, early on in my career, when I was in college, I worked in a regional Jewish leadership program, and we had many programs. One was actually a day on diversity within the Jewish community, looking at diversity of observance, diversity of ethnic backgrounds. Also, we had a gay Jew come in to talk about diversity of gender and sexuality. And one parent was so livid, and it was a dad, and he wrote a letter to my boss and threatened to write a letter to every rabbi and every Jewish newspaper, and saying what a horrible program we were and we should be shut down. And my boss talked him down, but we never did that program again. And I got a very clear message early on that I may have a really big personal cost coming out publicly. So there were, times of great acceptance and other times too.
About what age were you when that happened in the Jewish workshop?
I was 19.
19. Wow, pretty critical time.
And that was in Cupertino where you were?
It was a regional sort of Bay Area Jewish youth program. Yeah.
Okay. Well, so Sharon, could you talk about why you've chosen to work in the LGBT community and why you are now specifically focusing on the workplace inclusion?
Absolutely. My desire to start LGBTQ e-learning and train workplaces on positive communication skills and psychological safety. We co-created our e-course, Building LGBTQ plus inclusive workplaces. All that is really personal for me. I mentioned one story of a workplace hard moment, but there are others. I remember a job I had many years ago early on in my career, and I didn't feel comfortable being fully out at work. I didn't have pictures of my partner or my family up in my office. And it wasn't that people were raging homophobes, but it was clear they weren't all LGBTQ plus accepting. And I felt like I had to be careful. I felt like I was splitting myself in two. Like there was the me outside of work who was very much out in myself, and the me who had to show up inside work who was unable to be all of me. And it was hard. And there was a cost personally and professionally. I felt like I couldn't do my best work. And when I left that job, I decided that I never wanted to feel like that ever again. So I made sure to only look at jobs where I could bring my whole self to work, which then led me to the Diversity Center, where I was the executive director there for 8 years. And in that job, I had many conversations with people who were also navigating hard workplaces. So when I left that job, I said, okay, what's the difference I want to make in the world? And I realized that I wanted workplaces to support people and what a difference that would make if workplaces just knew how to be inclusive. And so I started LGBTQ e-learning with Dr. Cornell Verdea Woodson. And I right now, when people's gender and sexuality have become a political and divisive issue in some ways, I feel like there's a real opportunity to say, how can our companies be better? How can we all show up with our brilliance and bring our best self to work? Where people can say, I may not understand something about you, but we can still create a space for all of us to show up with our passion and our work. And that's going to create not only better workplaces, but it's going to create better employee retention and better experience for customers. So it's just a win-win-win. And I feel like in this world, workplaces are also this place where we have so much more political and mixing. I think so many times people choose in their own lives to hang out with people that share the same politics and are of the same backgrounds, and in our workplaces there's this beautiful opportunity for us to be with different people. And so I think that it's just a really important place to be having these conversations.
Great, Sharon. Thanks so much. On our next show, we're going to be talking with Dinah Phillips and Gail Groves, who were the first same-sex couple married in Santa Cruz County in June of 2008, along with Gail Pellerin, who was the city clerk at that time, who's now our state senator. Assembly person. Well,
John Laird might argue about that one.
Yeah. Assembly, not Senate. Well, Gail will be next. So just could you talk a little bit about when you got married and what it was like in Santa Cruz County, and then we're going to move on to Kristen.
Well, I got married in 2005. I say married with quotations because it was legal. We became domestic partners. And then in 2007, we got married on the very first day we could. We were actually in San Francisco. And
oh, wow.
It was the first day we were at San Francisco City Hall. And it was an incredible experience. I mean, we call it our Britney Spears moment because there were like 50 photographers following everyone all around, and you just realize you were part of this movement. Like it was so much love, but it was also such a historic moment that it was such a privilege to be part of, to share our love with the world. And so it was very special after being very actively part of that movement. And then I was back here as executive director of the Diversity Center when same-sex marriage became legal all across the country. And Gail gave such an amazing speech at that rally I will never forget. And so it's so great that you're going to be talking about that next week. It was a very special time in Santa Cruz County.
So you were married, it sounds like 3 times.
Well, we were actually married 8 times.
8 times, okay.
To each other, because
well, that's how it is,
after we got married, because my wife was pregnant, people actually kept inviting us to show up for sort of, for what, political, because instead of yelling at people to say your marriage is okay, we would pop up and sort of get supposedly married in public spaces. So it was sort of love activism at the time.
Nice.
I love that. That's what
I didn't know that story. Oh, I'm so glad we asked you that question.
I love that. Okay, love activism. Sharon invented it, and now she's going to continue it in a new vein. So, Kristen, welcome. Can you start by introducing yourself and how you ended up in Santa Cruz?
Sure, thank you. I'm Kristen Brown. My pronouns are she, her. Santa Cruz County has been the home of my family for 4 generations now. So our roots run deep in this community. We did move away for a period of time in my middle school and early high school years to the Central Valley, which is not as nice as Santa Cruz County. And so glad to be back for over 20 years now. But, my family's worked in community in public service and small business and the school districts, the fire districts. And so that sense of having kind of ties to this community, feeling grounded here, wanting to contribute personally and professionally has kind of always been with me.
Beautiful. That's so great. And you're right. Santa Cruz is more beautiful than the Central Valley, but we're glad that you got back.
So where was high school for you?
So I did my freshman and sophomore years at Tracy High in Tracy.
I see.
Yeah. It was an interesting time, not the most open-minded and welcoming and inclusive of places, but I tested out of high school when I was in sophomore year of high school and went straight into college. So those high school years were short, which was the right move for me.
And then you came back to Santa Cruz after that?
Yes. Yep.
And then what brought you back at that point?
So I was still young. I tested out of high school when I was 16, and then my family moved back here when I was 17.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, so I've been back for 22 years.
Oh,
now,
I see. Okay. Yeah. So it's partly school, but partly your family moved back, and so.
Yeah, I was with my parents. I was still young, and my parents both grew up here and met here, and they were childhood sweethearts. They met at what is now New Brighton Middle School. It used to be Capitola Elementary. And so they met in Capitola Elementary, and they moved away to the Central Valley and, the dream of home ownership. And, but ultimately they just missed it so much being here and brought us all back.
Fun. Yeah, that's interesting. We share a lot of generations between all of us here.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's a common story. I think more so now, people moving away for the dream of home ownership. That's, people have been priced out. It's not the way it was when my parents or my grandparents were buying houses here. It's out of control. I'm sure for your parents and grandparents too, it was, or your grandparents and great grandparents, it was 4 generations. Right. It's just a different time.
Yep.
So, Santa Cruz County is a very inclusive county and community for queer people compared to other places. How are you connected with or been an ally to the queer community in Santa Cruz County, Kristen?
Yeah, I've been proud to participate over the years in the Pride parades and the Queer Youth Leadership Awards, being there to celebrate the youth in this community, supporting efforts like raising the Pride Progress flag in Capitola when I was on the city council. And, it just is a matter for me of being an ally is showing up consistently, not just in words, but through actions and behaviors that signal safety and belonging and respect for everybody in our community.
And how did you end up running for political office? What was the inspiration and how did you make that decision?
Yeah. My undergraduate degree was in political communication, and it's something that I've always been interested in. And I, again, just feeling that local decision making is so important and it affects people's daily lives, especially in a place like Capitola, where it's such a small city. Your decisions are very personal and very visible. And I think that even though I'm speaking from the perspective of Capitola, all decisions on an elected and very personal people's lives in some way. And so I wanted to be part of kind of thoughtful leadership in the Capitola City Council that could ensure that everyone in our community felt like they could come to me and they would have a voice, and that everyone who lives here and visits here is safe and welcomed. And so I ran in 2016 and was on council until the end of 2024.
Great. So when you proposed the flying of the flag, when you brought up that motion, did everybody say, I second it, I second, everybody want a second? They were all like on board with you, ready to rock and roll there at the Capitola City Council?
Yeah, I can't take credit for the original motion. That was Margot Morgan, who is now mayor again in the city of Capitola right now. But she brought it to us, and I was on board. Councilmember Yvette Brooks was on board. I think there was a lot of excitement amongst the council. It was kind of a clear statement from us that city leadership sees and values its LGBTQ plus residents and visitors. And again, in small communities, those signals of belonging matter, and you can't just let folks assume or hope that they're welcome and safe in places. You need to make it very clear. And so, yes, the council was on board. There's always going to be a small but vocal minority that was not happy about it. And I'm very glad to say that it still comes up every June. The flag still flies. Yeah. So luckily we're still moving forward with making sure that message is heard for those who live and visit here. And if it ever comes to a point where it looks like that's not going to be the case, you can be sure you'll find me in the chambers yelling about how I was up there and I helped make this happen.
I think Capitola kind of set that precedent, because I know Watsonville has that in place. The city of Santa Cruz has that in place. I'm not sure about Scotts Valley, but I know they're right there with all of us. And that certainly says a lot about our combined community that we believe in, all the different cultures that live here, and especially the LGBTQ plus community. Could you, before we take a little break here, could you talk a little bit about your career and what your job is with the Chamber of Commerce?
Yeah, my career history has spanned kind of politics, government, and business advocacy, all which come together in my current role. I started as executive director of the Santa Cruz Area Chamber of Commerce almost a year ago. It'll be a year at the end of February. And my role focuses on supporting local businesses, employers, employees, helping to strengthen the regional economy, helping bridge the business community with government and nonprofit partners. And as I tell folks all the time, the business community is not set apart from our wider community. The people who are running businesses and are entrepreneurs and leading teams, they are living in our community. They've got kids that go to our schools. Like they're part of the greater community. And so that is kind of what I see at its core, is that the job is about helping Santa Cruz thrive, economically, but also socially, culturally, in all the good ways.
Welcome back to the Pride Perspectives radio show on K-Squid Radio, 90.7 FM, 89.7 FM, and KSQT, 89.7 Prudendale, serving the counties of Santa Cruz and Monterey. Our topic today is Elevate Inclusivity in Business. And our guests are Sharon Papo, CEO of the LGBTQ eLearning and former executive director of the Diversity Center, and Kristen Brown, who's the executive director of the Santa Cruz Area Chamber of Commerce and former mayor of Capitola. It was great getting to know a little bit about both your backgrounds, and now we're going to chat about the second annual Elevate Business Inclusion event that will take place Thursday, February 26th from 9 a.m. to noon at Hotel Paradox, co-sponsored by the Diversity Center, Santa Cruz Pride, and LGBT Learning, and anyone involved in a business is invited. And I don't have the address of the Paradox, but it's on Ocean Street, and you'll all find it. Sharon, you're working with businesses and nonprofits locally and nationally. What are you seeing in workplaces right now regarding the LGBTQ plus inclusion efforts, especially considering the diversity inclusion that has gone away in so many large corporations?
Yes, we are living in interesting times. And I want to say that what you read about is not always what's happening inside. I go to a lot of national conferences and I'm talking to people inside corporations, and some folks really are pulling back, but many others are calling things different things and finding ways to continue to hold their value of being an inclusive workplace so that they can support the recruitment, retention of their great staff and to support their customers. And also when you look at Gen Z, who now is, I believe, 13 to 26 or 28 years old, according to Gallup, 22.3% of them identify under the LGBTQ plus umbrella. So that about half is bisexual, pansexual, 2% as transgender or non-binary. So
wait, would you say that? Give us that statistic again. That sounds
22.3% of
that
Gen
group.
Z identify.
Almost a quarter.
Wow.
So that is 1 in 5 current or future hires. So when you think about, yes, there is some very incredibly scary legislation happening right now, and a lot of it is absolutely targeted at people who are transgender and non-binary, and that is making some workplaces and communities very, very difficult places. But if you think about that, I don't believe that you can legislate people out of their sexuality or gender, and that these issues are not going away, and workplaces know it. So unless you don't want to access 22.3% of the talent, and plus one thing about younger generations, when I told my story earlier about things I dealt with and put up with in workplaces, and a lot of young people I talk to these days will not put up with those situations. And so it's not just the 22.3% of people, but it's all the allies. It's all the young people who say, I'm not going to work in a workplace that I don't feel is in alignment with my values. So I believe that all workplaces that are committed to a strong future and a positive workplace culture, that they have to figure out how to navigate this. So I don't believe this issue is going away. And certainly here locally in Santa Cruz County, I feel like there's been overall a big, wonderful commitment at so many levels, which is why I'm so excited that Monica Martinez is going to be the keynote speaker, supervisor,
Right.
Monica Martinez.
Great. That is so great. And for those of you that don't know, Monica Martinez is our first out lesbian on the Santa Cruz County Board of Supervisors. And there was, for a long time, we didn't even have any women on the County Board of Supervisors. So this is a really big deal. Thanks for bringing that up, Sharon. And is there any, specific conversations that pop out for you right now that you're having in the workplace regarding this? Is there anything new, sort of on the horizon? Like if a company had a diversity inclusion specialist, did that person lose their job? Or did they just say, I'm going to call you pencil sharpener now, or I'm going to just change your job title so you don't,
Well, there have been a variety of different things decisions that made, and some are awful, and some actually had positive impact. So I've seen sometimes they had diversity, equity, inclusion teams, now called Inclusivity or whatever else they're called these days. Sometimes they said, well, we're not going to have one office just doing this work, which sometimes then that office had a hard time making an impact across the whole company. So that now they've spread people out, and they have people in every department doing the work. And so now sometimes people are actually able to be more effective because they are not just trying to all talk to each other to make an impact, but they are actually working across functioning companies. So I think that there's certainly awful things that are happening, and there's some silver linings that are actually having people say, okay, what was effective and what was really ineffective, and how do we learn, how do we get through this moment, and also how do we create inclusive spaces for everybody, because we not just on one issue or one group, how do we bring everybody along, and how do we have hard conversations, because we need to do that in our country, and we need to do that in our workplaces as well. And so that's a skill set that even if not everyone in our government possesses, that really makes our workplaces work better.
I love that. Hear that, federal government? You give us lemons, we're going to make lemonade every time. So anyway, Sharon, how did the idea develop for this specific event? And I know Rob had some stuff he wanted to say about that too.
Yeah, Rob.
Sharon, you start, Sharon, and I'll fill in.
We were at a kickoff event for Pride's 50th anniversary, and there were some great conversations between Rob at Pride and Melissa at Visit Santa Cruz, and start chatting with some folks at the Chamber and Hotel Paradox, and saying, we want to do all these big things in honor of Pride's 50th, and what if we wanted to also have something for the community, for our businesses. And that's how the dream came together in the Hotel Paradox, which has a lovely space. They've been an incredibly LGBT affirming, inclusive business, and they offered their space, and the Chamber came in as a co-sponsor, and Visit Santa Cruz is right there. And then we got some great sponsors, and we had a really great event last year, and we're really excited to do it again.
It was November 2024, as I recall, that we did a business event to notify businesses of the 50th anniversary coming up in 2025. And Sharon was there and said, we should do something more specific for businesses about how they can be more inclusive, how they can think about how do we invite the LGBTQ plus community into Santa Cruz County to be part of it, and to be part of the 50th anniversary. And then we launched this first event, I guess it was in January, wasn't it? Yeah, we made that one come together really fast, as I think back. But it was a great group of people, and I just remember the interaction with everybody there was so positive and exciting about how that all came together.
Absolutely.
So then we thought it's important to keep reminding our community, our business community, of why we're inclusive and why that's so important. So that's brought us to this second event. And Kristen, maybe you could talk a little bit about how and why the Chamber became involved with this event this year, and why that's important to all of you.
Yeah, absolutely. So when I joined the chamber, it was late February of 25, and I had heard about this event. I hadn't been a part of it. I wasn't part of the chamber yet, but I'd heard about this event that the chamber had partnered with you on. And so I said, are we going to do it again next year? And we don't know. And so then, sure enough, later last year, I hear from Sharon, we're doing it again. Do you want to partner on it again? I said, absolutely. Elise Mitchell, our operations associate at the chamber, jumped in and is representing the chamber on the planning side of things, and we're working to promote the event. I think it's really important that the chamber be a part of this, that, companies here in Santa Cruz County, many of them understand that inclusivity isn't just the right thing to do. It's good for business. It's good for their workforce health. It's good for community reputation, quite frankly. And so being a part of that was important to us, and I'm really excited to be at the event.
Could you talk a little bit more from your perspective of how, you just said it makes good business sense is what I heard. How does being more inclusive make good business sense overall?
Yeah, I mean, to the point that Sharon made earlier, what was it, Sharon? 22.3% of the workforce? Yeah, identifies as LGBTQ plus. And so you are losing out on qualified, talented workforce if you are not providing an inclusive and welcoming workspace. If your space is not welcoming to the visitors, I mean, there's so much, I don't know how else to say it, except there's so much to lose when you are not an inclusive business. And so I think that a lot of our businesses see that here. But there's always more work to be done. And I think that that's part of what this event is how to encourage businesses to be more inclusive, to expand on their inclusivity, yeah.
And I want to add on to what Kristen was saying when there's a lot that businesses have to lose. And I think about Target as an example. And
good example.
When they rolled back their DI efforts, and they didn't even totally stop them, but they took a step back from some of their commitments. And in the first month of the boycotts, their foot traffic was down 8% compared to the previous year. And that was their stocks fell 12%, and their foot traffic was decreased in 49 states. So people all over the country care about this, not just here in Santa Cruz County.
I am so glad you put that historical context to this, because that's more recent. But then we think about other historical times when the LGBTQ plus population was not interested in certain businesses for a variety of reasons. And that's the flip side of why it's so important. Cece, I'll let you ask the next question.
Well, I mean, it's kind of a backwards question, but what makes a business inclusive? We heard what makes it not inclusive, but what makes it inclusive, and what are some examples across Santa Cruz County of inclusive businesses?
Yeah, well, I'll start by saying I did take Sharon's LGBTQ plus eLearning platform course, and it's phenomenal. So I will start by saying if there's any business that is still working on this in this space, that they should definitely, I'm just going to put a plug in there for that. It's a great program. But inclusivity for businesses is about welcoming those who are of all sexual orientations, all gender identities, both in policy and in practice. And so that means clear non-discrimination policies that include sexual orientation and gender identity. Gender neutral restrooms, inclusive. Is your language inclusive and gender neutral in your job postings and in your customer service? And then I think, again, training your staff on respectful communication, on allyship through things like the LGBTQ plus eLearning platform. And then ultimately, and this is something that we're working on at the chamber too, is being more visible in our support in the public, at the pride parades, at the events. And so again, we're excited to be part of the Elevate event, but I think those are just some actions that can signal kind of belonging for both employees and customers if you're a public-facing business.
Yeah, that's great. And what's the chamber doing to encourage businesses to be more inclusive?
Yeah, so we're working again on the Elevate event, which I think is going to be really important. We're We've been having discussions in the last several months. We're still trying to figure out how to do it. But we've been having discussions about having a Rainbow Chamber of Commerce section on our website where businesses can opt in to show that they are either allies or LGBTQ plus owned and operated, so that there is a resource for those who are looking to support allied businesses or businesses that are LGBTQ plus owned and operated. And so that's something that we've been talking about, because we have our business directory, but there is a way that we're trying to figure out to allow businesses to kind of check a box of, I want you to also know this about my business. And so that's something that we're working on as well.
Nice.
That's go ahead, Rob.
Oh, I was just going to say we've got a few more. I can't believe this time has flown by so fast, but let's talk a little bit about the event and what you're looking forward to happening at the event. And Sharon, maybe you can share first about what parts you're most excited about, and then Kristen, you can go, and then I'll share, and then we'll kind of put in our final words before we have to close out our show.
Absolutely. So I think what I'm most excited about is that people are really going to have real tools, real resources to help build more inclusive businesses. And it's 3 hours. It's not just going to be hearing people talk. We're going to have lots of time for talking to others to find out what are other people doing, what are other great ideas people have. So we're going to be sharing some things, but we're going to have plenty of time for networking. We're going to have a delicious breakfast, and you're going to leave with lots of inspiration and tools to bring back and put right into action.
Kristen, what are you looking forward to?
Honestly, the same. I love a good workshop, a good opportunity to walk into a room and then leave with more information than I came into it with. And I think that this event is going to offer that kind of opportunity, and I'm really excited about that.
You know, earlier when you were talking about policies including gender identity and sexual orientation, I was reminded that Santa Cruz County was one of the first counties in the nation to adopt that wording for businesses across Santa Cruz County. And that was our Board of Supervisors at that time. I think that was in the 80s. Again, one of the first trailblazer pieces. So I'm just reflecting on some of the history, but I'm also looking forward to Monica Martinez sharing her thoughts from her perspective, having been on the board now for a year, and she's now the chair of the board. So it'll be fun to hear that perspective as well, and that she'll be there to participate in the day. I think that'll be exciting. And then we do have lots of other people that'll be participating as part of that day. For people who want to register, I want to just say, just go to the Santa Cruz Pride website, santacruzpride.org, and the Elevate event is right there with the links to how you can sign up and register. We hope to see all of you there for sure. Any final thoughts before we close out our show here? Final thoughts from Sharon or Kristen?
Just that we are living in intense times. I know that there are so many people that want to be an ally, and they're saying, what can I do right now? I think people are feeling hopeless. And so this event is a great way to come back with some tangible tools about things you can do to create a more welcoming, inclusive community and workplace.
So that was sort of, in the whole country. So Santa Cruz has been there on the front line the whole time.
Lots of trails for a lot of years, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, Sharon and Kristen, we sure thank you for being part of our show and for promoting this. I look forward to seeing you both at that event too. And for lots of other businesses, look forward to seeing you there. We always end with a quote. Cece, do you have a quote for us tonight?
I do have a little quote. It is important to acknowledge those who support us in our lives. Even if we experience ourselves as independent, there are many who make our independence possible. We acknowledge those whose values and actions sustain us, those we meet whose sharing and example inspire us. Let's acknowledge those we trust to be supportive to us in difficulty, those with whom we share sorrows and those with whom we share laughter. The people who care about us deserve our gratitude. They show us that we are not alone in the world. We're sustained and strengthened not only by those with whom we have long and deep associations, but also by those merely passing through our day. An act of courtesy, a look of kindness, a smile of recognition, a momentary sharing. These help form our sense of human interconnection and support.
Well,
And
that's
certainly
great.
this event is an interconnection and support for all of us in our community. And thank you both for being here. And this event's going to be fabulous.
Speaking of support, Sharon, you want to talk about the support?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that this event is not possible without the generosity of many great organizations, businesses. You mentioned LGBTQ eLearning, the Diversity Center, Santa Cruz Pride, Hotel Paradox. I want to also make sure I give a shout out to, of course, the Santa Cruz Area Chamber of Commerce. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Helping to organize this event. City of Santa Cruz Economic Development Department, the Santa Cruz Community Credit Union, Downtown Santa Cruz, Visit Santa Cruz County, BayFed, Realtor Teresa Marlowe, Financial Advisor Cheryl Rabataro, and Bookshop Santa Cruz. So just want to say that many have shown up with great generosity to make this event possible in our community.
And the Paradox, right?
Yep, Hotel Paradox.
It's been a team effort. That's what's going to make this event so fun. So just one more time to remind everybody about these upcoming events. So the Elevate Business event is on Thursday, February 26th at Hotel Paradox. You can register now on our website. And if you've got other questions, again, check the website. Our emails are all there for you to reach out to us. It'll be a great event, and we look forward to all being there. The next event after that is the annual Warriors Pride Night that will be on Thursday, March 19th. You can purchase those tickets now on the Santa Cruz Warriors website, and you can also find that link on the Santa Cruz Pride website as well. Our next show will be on February 22nd, and we will be talking with Dinah Phillips and Gail Groves, who were the first same-sex couple married in Santa Cruz County in June 2008, along with Assembly Member Gail Pellerin, who was city clerk at the time, and Sharon Papo and lots of other people who were there, Sharon and Amber, and lots of other couples who are still hanging out in Santa Cruz, making an important impact. So once again, we want to thank you for joining our show, Pride Perspectives, here on KSQD, conversations and stories to celebrate the LGBTQ plus culture and history across Santa Cruz and Monterey counties. See you at the next show.